Show and Talk. Oh man, yo, it feels like forever since I've been up here, yo. I actually missed a week because we've been moving and we finally just got settled in. So I had to jump back on here and miss my peoples. You know what I'm saying? So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. But today we will be talking about American Ninja 2. A few weeks ago we did the first American Ninja movie. I want to go through the whole franchise because this is one of my favorite series, with the exception of the fifth movie. I thought that movie was just a lost cause, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, this movie is a little like more lighthearted in my opinion than the first one was. The first one took place in the military, you know what I'm saying? Um this movie is still a military film, but it takes place in the Caribbean, you know what I'm saying? So it's a different villain, you know what I'm saying, different characters and everything like that. Of course, Steve James is still in it playing Curtis Jackson. You got your boy, Joe Armstrong. You know what I'm saying? My bad, y'all. Damn. I don't know, yo. But anyway, you got your boy Joe Armstrong, played by Michael Dudikoff. So this movie basically, in the gist, it's about Marines in the Caribbean being captured and disappearing, being turned into super soldier or super ninja or whatever. So Joe and Jackson, they're recruited to go to the Caribbean to find out what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And then you have this guy named Tommy Taylor, setting people up, you know what I'm saying, to be taken. And he's also a Marine. But when Joe and Jackson get there, he tries to, basically have them captured, but it doesn't work because, in particular, Joe, his like senses is on point in this movie, and it's like when they're stuck on this when they're stuck on this island because Tommy tries to set them up or whatever by detaching a wire to the motor of the motorboat, because they're it's Tommy, this dude named Charlie, that's another guy, and Joe. They're going to this island called Mangrove Island to see the locals. You know what I'm saying? I guess there was like, referred to a bunch of women or whatever, but by the time they get halfway there, they're all asleep except for Tommy, who was driving the boat. So Tommy detaches the wires to the boat, and then everybody wakes up. They trying to find out what's going on, but Tommy tells them something wrong with the boat, the motor or whatever. So they decide to swim back to shore, all except for Joe. So Joe is kind of catching on to what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, his senses are out there. But after they leave, Joe basically tells Jackson to keep an eye on Tommy because he sees that Tommy is acting suspicious, which he pretty much was. Like, it was obvious at that point. You know what I'm saying? So Joe figures out what happened to the motorboat. So he reattaches the wires and then it starts back up. But then he winds up on the island anyway. So, and here we go. Out of nowhere, behind this big ass rock, it's a bunch of ninja. So Joe winds up, fighting them off easily, watching them. So there's this one scene in this movie, and I gotta mention it. Like that same rock that Joe is standing in front of, like, because there's more ninja coming. There's one that's above him that's on top of the rock. He could have had Joe right there. You know what I'm saying? And then when he jumped down, he started yelling. So Joe easily sidesteps out the way. And then here's more ninja coming. You know what I'm saying? One tries to throw a rope around his neck. Joe easily grabs the rope, pulls the ninja off the rock. You know what I'm saying? And somehow the ninja died or got knocked out by falling off the rock. I don't know. Like I said, the violence level in these American ninja films aren't really R-rated violence. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, it's more like PG-13. But I think there was a certain cut that was made, which never really came to life, if I'm not mistaken, which gave the movie an X rating, but I guess they cut it out. I'm not sure, but yeah, Joe, he was fighting them ninja off, and then here come Jackson decides to turn around and help him out. You know what I'm saying, to figure out what's going on because Joe is still on the island. So when Jackson gets there, now he's involved in the middle of the fight with all these ninjas. You know what I'm saying? So by the time that takes place, you know what I'm saying, they decide to head back because now they're being overwhelmed. So it's more and more and more coming at this point by the time they get done fighting their respective, enemies or whatever. So they see more coming and they decide to retreat. And now they're like at this cliff or whatever. So they look down in straight water. So they decide to jump down. I think did they jump down in the boat? I think they jumped down in the boat, which that should have broke their fucking legs, number one. You know what I'm saying? From the height they jumped, but I don't know. But anyway, they end up back at base. You know what I'm saying? So now they're talking to this dude named Wild Bill, which is the commander officer for the Marines, stationed on that island or whatever. So he's telling them that, his men keep disappearing or whatever. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and this dude, like one of the cool characters too. Like, you look at him, you can really tell that he's not really CO. I think they did that purposely for this movie because this movie, like I said, is more cheesy than the first film. But while they're getting briefed or whatever, there's one particular cut that if you seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. Um, Behind Joe, like when they show Joe from the back, it's not Joe. It's clearly not Joe. I think that's a stunt double or something. You know what I'm saying? Michael Dudikoff stunt double. For some reason, I don't know. They found it necessary to put him in that shot only when the camera's behind him. You know what I'm saying? Behind him and Steve James. So, yo, me and my brother Kevin, we actually caught that. And then when they're walking out, you could clearly look at this dude's face. Like, you could tell that's not Joe Armstrong or that's not Michael Dudikoff. You know what I'm saying? That shit was so funny to me back then. But anyway, they're at this Marine party that, this little celebration going on. So another character is introduced at this point, this girl named Felicia. So Joe's standing around looking at, this guy named the Lion because that's who they're really after. So she walks up. She just comes out of nowhere, walks up, slaps this guy in the face or whatever, right? And then she's yelling and screaming, complaining that they have her father or whatever. And the Lion's telling everybody that, she's not well. She's saying, no, I'm perfectly fine. It's you that's fucked up, basically. You know what I'm saying? So the Lion has somebody take her away. And now Joe, you know what I'm saying? He's over there, looking because he recognized one of the dudes that was with the Lion, which is like the head ninja in this movie. So while Jackson is cupcaking with another female, which, that was his thing in these movies or whatever, Joe gets his attention. He's saying basically, yo, we gotta go, you know what I mean? And the CO sees what's going on and he tells them to take his car. So they end up back at this bar that Joe was in earlier because it was like this group of dudes who was trying to ambush him and they got their ass whooped. So it's the same group of dudes there, which I didn't understand. If you got your ass whooped by one person, why you think you're gonna be able to take on three with the same skill set, basically? So it was Charlie, Joe, and Jackson. They end up in this bar, and this is like the best scene in the movie, the fight scene. So while Joe was fighting some dude who puts up a pretty good fight with him, which I have no idea how, which you just took out a group of ninjas by yourself. This is just the regular old random henchman. So Joe was up there, getting washed for a minute, but then he winds up taking the dude out in because this is the dude that had the girl, you know what I'm saying? So he went after him immediately. And then Charlie and Jackson downstairs fighting the group of dudes. And some of the dudes in that group were the same dudes that tried to attack Joe earlier. You know what I'm saying? So, yo, Jackson is crazy, yo. He made that fight scene look fun. I know Steve James had a good time on set when he did that. You know what I'm saying? You could tell because it was like this one scene where this big dude from earlier, one of the dudes that ambushed Joe, you know what I'm saying? Steve James told him, well, Jackson told him, go ahead, punch me, you know what I'm saying? Punch me as hard as you can. So he did it twice, and then Jackson just knocked his ass out. So after that whole thing is done, you know what I'm saying? Here comes the head ninja, right? Entering the bar. And then Joe sees him. So he grabs Jackson and they hightail it out of there. But Jackson wanted a piece of him, which was funny as hell, man. So one of the henchmen grabs the head ninja, and then the head ninja dude, yo, just starts whooping his ass, like, I guess for felon. You know what I'm saying? So by the time the three get back outside, they see that some dudes are trying to take their car apart, and then they run off as they're coming. So when they get back in the car and head back to the party, only Jackson and Charlie get out the car because Joe knows at this point that it was a scene where Tommy, you know what I'm saying, met Joe at that same bar earlier, but Tommy winds up getting killed for, I guess, spilling the beans on the line or whatever. So Joe just so happened to be there when it happened. And now Joe was like, yo, cause the police chief is looking for Joe because, you know, he wants to take him in for questioning because he knows that Joe was there at the time Tommy got murdered. You know what I'm saying? So Joe's basically telling them, nah, don't let him know I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? Tell him I disappeared. So, you know, the CEO, Wild Bill, called on at this point, and he told the police chief basically, yeah, he disappeared. You know what I'm saying? So that was a cool ass character too. Like he didn't play by the rules. Clearly, I'm talking about the CEO. So at this point, you know, Joe heads off with Felicia, and they're looking at the island where Felicia's father is because basically the whole premise is if Felicia's father don't, you know what I'm saying, do the experiments that the lion wanted, then they was going to kill her. So they waited until nightfall to go into the base or whatever, or to go into the lion's fortress because they couldn't do it during the day because they had guards everywhere. So they waited until nighttime. So, you know what I'm saying? Nightfall finally came and then they went on ahead and left. And when they got there, see Jackson knew what it was, so he wanted to take the crew and he wanted to go out there himself, but they couldn't go until they had word from Washington, you know what I'm saying? So Jackson's like, look, I'm going with or without it because he wanted to do a recon. You know what I'm saying? So what happened was they finally agreed and they got up with him and they went out. You know what I'm saying? They went out towards the fortress or whatever where Felicia and Joe was. So by the time Felicia and Joe get there, you know what I'm saying? They got these ninja suits on or whatever, like these outfits, and they just walking around the base all freely. And then it's like, yo, these characters that played the ninja in this movie was just like trash, bruh. I ain't even gonna lie to you. Their senses wasn't there at all. It's supposed to be in super soldiers, man, but yo, I ain't see that in the slightest bit. So basically, they see that the lion is giving a demonstration, well, talking about, what he's trying to do with these super soldiers or whatever. And then he has the head ninja do a demonstration. But the head ninja winds up killing, several of them. And I thought that was crazy because I'm like, yo, these are supposed to be super soldier or whatever. But um Joe, he finally, basically he tells Felicia to get her father, you know what I'm saying, and take her out. And if he's not out in like 5 minutes or so or 15 minutes or whatever, I forgot, he's not back in an hour, I think, something like that, then go ahead. So Joe finally reveals himself, right? And then the final showdown in the movie is Joe versus the head ninja. Um, so they square off, and the head ninja knows he can't fuck with Joe. You know what I'm saying? So he resorts to a shot. Man can't talk, yo. He resorts to a shotgun and he tries to take Joe out that way, but it doesn't work. So Joe and him get into a sword match, and Joe winds up slicing him in the stomach or whatever. So he falls dead, and Felicia's father, he wants to get rid of all these experiments once and for all. So he tells Felicia that he has to go handle something, you know what I'm saying, like a G, because her dad was a G, you know what I'm saying, near the end. So he plants these bombs on these tubes or whatever. And when the lion walks in, him and her father get into an argument saying, like, I thought you knew what we was trying to do here. But the reason why he wants to destroy these experiments is because the lion promised, Felicia's father that they was going to create a cure for sickness or whatever. But it turned out he tricked them into making these super soldiers. So he was like, nah, this isn't what I wanted to do. So he winds up blowing up all the tubes, taking himself out along with the lion. So they're pretty much dead now. And then after that, at the end of the film, everybody ends up back at base. You know what I'm saying? Back on the island. And I forgot to mention there was a little kid named Toto. Like, yo, this little bastard was making money from everybody because everything anybody wanted, he charged them for. You know what I'm saying? So he played a big part in the movie too, as the reason why, Joe and Felicia were successful at getting to what they got, where they got to. So that was pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody leaves. And in the next movie, it's sad to say that Joe Armstrong or Michael Dudikoff is not in it. You know what I'm saying? I think he was doing something else at that point. Avenging Force. I know he did that movie with Steve James, but Steve James was in American Ninja 3. And I got to say, that's the only reason why I felt like that movie was okay, because of Steve James. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has a great personality, man. Like, he make you laugh and all of that. So, yeah, that movie will be coming up next. So stay tuned for that. I got to get out of here, y'all. I appreciate y'all for listening, and we will be discussing American Ninja 3 next week. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, stay tuned, and I'll get with y'all then. All right? Peace.